assist it or not.
Why don't you all join the stage, those of you who are going to?
So, as Adrian was saying, while they all take their seats, I'm Siobhan Robbins. I'm Sky's Europe correspondent based in Berlin. And we're going to spend the next 35 to 40 minutes talking about new threats, but actually really leaning towards the threat from Russia. And when I was thinking about this panel, I thought about how different the situation is where I live in Germany now compared to 2022. So when you look back to 2022, you'll remember the occasion when Ukraine asked for arms and Germany said, we'll give you 5,000 helmets. Fast forward 3 years, now Germany is one of the biggest military backers of Ukraine, and the leaders openly call Putin a danger to democracy. And the conversations that I've had with people around Europe, but in Germany as well, have radically changed. So, for example, I was talking to a spy chief recently, and he was talking quite openly about unidentified drones flying over NATO convoys, making their way through Germany, bringing weapons to Ukraine. Now, they don't know it's Russia. He wouldn't say it's Russia, but the clear hint is Russia. Another example, an army chief that I spoke to told me on the record that they found last year explosives planted on a NATO pipeline, which had been planted within a year of them finding them. Again, he couldn't say for definite it was Russia, but that certainly was their prime suspect. So things have changed, conversations have changed. And we're going to talk to partners from across Europe. We've got someone here from Finland, we've got Ukraine, we've got Lithuania. But I wanted to start with Serbia. Of course, a country where we've seen over the last year mass student-led protests, people coming onto the streets, many of the crowds supporting a closer tie with the EU, at the same time as your prime minister is desperately trying to grip onto a gas deal with Russia. Just tell us about the situation that you're facing and your reporters are facing.
Yeah, no, because you started with the problems with Russia that you have in European Union, we have it too. But let's get back on these demonstrations that happened like actually 1 year ago, on 1st of November, when canopy on the railway station on Novi Sad fell down and killed 16 people. That triggered a huge demonstration all over the country, especially students led protest, which was very significant, and they came on foot into Europe, into Brussels, and also by the bicycles into Strasbourg, asking for help to gain democracy in Serbia, because it was all about democracy and a rule of law. And our situation is that we covered, as we do as a news channel, all of it. We do live streams. We did, I don't know, 15 hours of live streams and breaking news program all the way down. And then happened 15th of March, the huge protest in Belgrade. I think the biggest one that I ever seen in the country, and I'm covering this from for 32 years in my career, and that there were at least 350,000 demonstrators on the street. In one point, there was a massive split out of demonstrators on left and right, like they were hit by some strange sound weapon at the moment. And we reported on that, of course, live, and afterwards preparing the packages, tried to find out what happened. Hundreds of people went into a hospital, and the government tried to suppress any kind of report and tried and start and calling us as terrorists. And what happened? They called FSB to investigate, just to prove that there were no sound weapon. And at the end, President said, "This is a proof." FSB said, There is no any sound weapon. You lied and you invent everything, and you prepare demonstrators to split, and there were thousands of them. Of course, we continued to cover the protest and everything else, but the suppression against journalists on the field and journalists in the newsroom, because we are receiving the threats on a daily level, are enormous. We are also received a letter in July that we are going to be, some of our anchors to finish in the newsroom like Charlie Hebdo. And we, of course, report that to the police and prosecutor office. Nothing happened. And I'm going to show you, I will call the colleagues in the gallery to play the video just to see how it is look like to work as a journalist, as a free journalist in Serbia on the field. Please.
Evo, u ovom trenutku nas žandarmerija gura. Samo polako, nemojte opremu. Nemojte opremu. Ali ovo nije fronta.
To što rade Nova S i N1 je čisti terorizam.
Ne damo Srbiju!
Koga branite Srbiju?
Ne znam od vas.
Gospodine, čuli smo da ste
Čujemo što se ne vrstu dam.
Više vam odgovarati na pitanja neću, niti ću vam dozvoljavati da mi ih postavljate. Doviđenja, prijatno.
Mori!
Za N1 u vas nisam došao i možete daći. Prilazite mi srede, dobro, nemojte.
Zavno ste površili, napadate.
Ja sam novinar.
Najgora indoktrinacija se vrši preko tih medija. Sve što rade u cilju dalje destabilizacije, rekao bi rasturanja i ponižavanja Srbije.
Klanjaj to, mam! Mršu da ne bre, mam lupo. Ajde bre,
Evo sada čeka na njih. Aha, upravo je policajac gurnuo našeg snimatelja.
Da, vi radite, sram da vas bude. I morate da dođete da provocirate.
Ovo be, beži!
So, of course, it's not all of them. It's just a small part of it. And that's something that we are living almost every day, especially in this last year. We get used to threats and intimidation of, maybe you can see in this video, there is a president, there is ex-prime minister, and there is mayor of Belgrade, all intimidating our journalists on the press conferences or in any kind of TV shows all over the place. So that's where we come to the situation that we have hostile environment from the government and government representatives all the time, and now we have hostile environment in our own company. Because what happened, I will try to explain you very shortly. It happened that the majority owners, the BC partners, decided in June to replace the head of our company, and we realized that at the moment that something is going on, we were very suspicious about the reasons of the changes on the top of the management of United Group, which is actually our mother company. Later on, OCCRP, which is Organized Crime Investigative Network of Journalists, in August revealed an audio conversation between Telekom Serbia, state-owned telecom operator, and director of United Group, Stan Miller, the new director of United Group, appointed in June. After that conversation, which I'm going to play to you a small part of it. We understood that all changes in our management are made because they want to take N1 and Nova TV in Serbia under the control. And afterwards, things started to happen. They imposed 5 new directors in our Luxembourg mother company. So that means that they can overrule and change everything in the company, which will reflect, of course, on our operation as a TV station. We are waiting still for that. As Adrian said, today is some court case between minority owners and majority owners in Amsterdam. We are going to see. But first of all, I would like to listen this 1 minute part of the whole conversation, but one essential minute as a proof of what's going on. Please.
Very small in Serbia, if you understand what I mean, and separated. The time for that, and that is what we've agreed. Okay, we need to get the banks to move fast, etc. Now, I understand that the president called you and is very upset, and I can understand, but I need to find a way to do it fast, quick. I don't know what Nikos promised you, or somebody promised you, but I will do everything to help you, Vlada. Yes. Situation is really important. You have directions of media, and you have this is actually somewhat formally a big position. So this is President Tusk Nikos. It was to replace the election of this is not a director of Finland and always he was aware that it is difficult now to change the director of Finland without having
So you can see that there is some kind of conspiracy between the state operator and the owner of private company based in Amsterdam in European Union. So what we actually need, we need a kind of support and help from colleagues, especially because this is not only a Serbian story, this is a European story, because on some way we are registered in Luxembourg as a European media, and we are actually broadcasting through this overseas agreement that Serbia signed with European Union. My point is that what's happening with us is a very is a pattern that is going all over the world. Right now, we are seeing that in CBS. We are seeing that especially in the United States. But it's the populism that we are facing. All of us as a journalist, as a free journalist, are facing with the populism that want to suppress freedom of press. I won't take any more of your time in this moment.
Just for a quick clarification, obviously this is a clear example from your point of view of someone trying to limit free speech, freedom of the press. That, from your point of view, is from the government. Do you see them acting independently? Are they taking a page from Moscow's playbook? Is there Moscow in the background here, or is this just something totally separate?
Well, I cannot define that there is no proof to say that the Moscow is behind it. But what we can see, the pattern, what is Putin is doing in Russia, but it's, let's say, extraordinary comparing to what we have here. But we can see that in Hungary, this kind of suppression of free media. We saw that in Poland. It happened 2 years ago. But the problem is with Serbia that, as you mentioned, Serbia is deeply connected with Russia, especially because of the energetic deals with the oil and gas. So if Russia cut that down, Serbia will die instantly in terms of energetic fields. And we saw that our president is very he's flattering to Putin all the time, and on the other hand, he's at least in Serbia, he's pretending that he is tough guy against the people from the West. These people who are protesting, he called them a colored revolution, people organized by West, and he was saying all the time that he's got the proof from Russia that it is organized from the western part of the world to prepare so-called colored revolution, and they're very frequently narrative are saying this is a Serbian Maidan, making a parallel with the Ukraine. So this is something that is going on, but there is no quite clear, how can I say, evidence that this our situation is connected with Moscow.
Thank you, Igor, and I'm sorry for what your reporters are going through. I think a lot of people in Europe would agree that there's been a shift in how people feel or perceive the threat from Russia in the last few weeks, particularly with incursions into airspaces of NATO partners, drones. Let's talk to Artem now. For 3 years, your reporters, you have been living through the war. What's the situation like for you guys now on the ground?
Now situation remains very uneasy, as I told before. For example, my family, the whole Kiev and the whole Ukraine live without electricity 3-4 times a day, without heating, without hot water, and we have lack of gas sometimes. Because the main heating and power station were heated by Russian rockets, and that's why it's very complicated to repair them, because you can't buy parts for this in shop. It could be done for every station. So situation is very uneasy. Winter will be very uneasy for us, but people realize that if we will stop our defense, it will be the beginning of new war, and to gain new parts of Ukraine, and after Ukraine, you know which countries with Putin appetite. That's why we can't stop it, because it will be preparation with new weapon, with new soldiers, and with new anger. Our soldiers, first of all, soldiers, of course, and our plant engineers, every day they do unbelievable things, but they can't do it forever. We need to stop this war. We need to cease fire, but we can't stop this war with losing our lands. As I said, it is not a decision in this war.
And we've seen various high-profile summits. Trump meeting Putin, Zelensky. They're meeting actually Zelensky and Trump again. Do you think people in Ukraine still believe that the West can help end this war, or is that sort of belief starting to fade?
Yes, people believe, and we are very happy that our Western partners help us with the weapon, because we need weapon. We have good soldiers, people who would like to win, but every day we need a lot of weapon, because on the front line, one Ukrainian soldier to five, 6 Russian soldiers every day. And we fight against the biggest country in the world, which attacked our country at the moment when we were weak for such a war. People believe. I can tell you that people believe in victory. People believe in normal life, because, for example, people don't want to leave their houses on the front line, even in almost destroyed villages or cities. They want to live there on their land. And yes, people believe in West, because we don't have opportunity not to believe to our partners who help us in this big war.
But how do you keep the morale up? I did a report recently, and I spoke to 19-year-old who lives in Kyiv, and he was talking about the constant drone attacks and how now people often don't even leave their houses. They're so kind of ground down. How do you keep going if this is another year?
We have underground shelters. During the air alerts, we go to underground shelters. We believe in our anti-air defense. We have very good anti-air defense. We believe in it, but of course we go to underground shelters with our children. During educational process, during the day, children are in the shelters under the schools. And now we built schools and kindergartens totally underground.
Thank you. We're just going to move on to Rolandas because you're from Lithuania, a country which, with many of its Baltic neighbours, for years has been warning about Russian aggression. And actually, if you look at NATO's warnings themselves, they say in the next 45 years, Putin could be ready to strike a NATO country, but they bring that down to potentially 3 years for one of the Baltic states. How has life for you guys changed since 22?
Well, honestly, we do follow pretty closely what's going on in Ukraine, how things are moving. And from day to day, we do receive good news and bad news. Bad news is that there is a lot of samples that Russia is preparing for bigger war. They're adopting new legislation, which lets them to mobilize people and start new war. On another side, we do have good news that they are really stuck in Ukraine, and quite for some time, the lines of front line is literally not moving. They do have some limitations on mercenaries, so it gives us some sense that we are buying some time because of that. In general, society is anxious. At the very beginning, a lot of people were panicking, but the human being is such a kind of being which is getting used to danger. So now people are more relaxed, even though danger is getting bigger. And even in Ukraine, as you can see, even during the air attacks, some people are still going in the streets and do not pay a lot of attention to air attacks. So that's if that's going on in war area. So you could imagine that in Lithuania we understand the danger, but we are getting used to this kind of danger that it exists.
And what's the country doing if it is potentially 3 years? And I think Lithuania is one of the countries, when you speak to their ministers, they really do take that threat seriously. It's not just this might happen, it might not. What is the country doing to prepare for a possible attack? You know, we've heard a lot about drone walls, about mining the borders. What kind of things are going on?
In fact, honestly saying, it's a lot of talking and very limited of doing. We literally have done almost nothing in real world, just a PR, just few samples of some dragon teeth zones, and that's it. We do follow, like for instance in Finland, they inspected all the shelters and preparing shelters, right? We literally have none of them, and nobody's even talking about building new one. So from this perspective as a state, we do have very, very limited actions at the moment. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And that moves us on to Finland, of course, one of NATO's newest members. We were just touching on the kinds of things that have changed. What sorts of things have Finland done? What has changed for you since 22?
Well, firstly, I would like to say that my answer would be nothing, in that sense that we have always been very aware of our long border with Russia, and we have a lot of kind of evidence that we have never forgotten these basic geographic facts. Like, for instance, we have the biggest conscript army in Europe, and maybe 30,000 men and women in as conscripts, and then like something like 40,000 in active service. So we can raise any given time like almost 300,000 people into the army. So that's something, and it's also very active. We practice quite a lot, and when I say we, it also means that we have quite a strong voluntary service system. That, for instance, I have myself been attending what we call the National Defense Course. That means that I have been off from work for 1 month and been these kind of lessons and exercises from early morning to late in the evening, where we go through very basic facts about, like, if war breaks on, where do we put like children's hospital patients, where do we get gas and oil, where does the food come from, how does the military divers operate, like everything. And a very big part of Finnish people who are working in some sort of leadership roles, they go through this system like almost routinely. And also, as you mentioned, we probably have maybe the best bomb shelter system in Europe, or maybe other places as well. So the basic answer is that we have always been very prepared of all that. But now, as you ask, what has changed? So maybe there is something in the mental setting that, of course, it was a shock when the war broke. It was a shock for everybody, I think it's fair to say. And now when we think kind of retrospectively, how was the discussion in Finland during the years before the full-scale attack on Ukraine, we can of course think that were we really so on the top of the game if we think about, for instance, the Finnish airliner Finnair, that was basing their whole strategy on that they can always fly on Russian airspace to Far East and make Helsinki-Vantaa Airport a hub for Asian tourists, and that the backbone of the whole business strategy was the Russian airspace. And another example is that the Finnish energy company Fortum was making pretty lucrative deals with Russia and building big power plants. I've been there myself, seeing the ceremonies when they were opening the new very big power plants in Siberia for Russian oil plants. That was, of course, something like almost a decade ago. But anyways, this sort of investments are made for decades. So basically, that implies that also the Finnish state, that was main owner of these companies, has not fully been kind of prepared of the possibility that things might simply change for good dramatically, like now. But still, I would like to go back to this military preparedness, that all these times the main strategy has been that we have never forgotten the basic principles of our defense. Like, no matter what our political leadership has been saying, it has always been there very strongly.
When I look at where I live in Germany, the language used around war has radically altered. You know, now it's like discussions around conscription, defense is at the forefront. There are campaigns telling people don't become unwitting spies for Russia. Similar things happening in the UK. Do you feel that people in Finland feel a threat from Russia, or are they just prepared?
Well, both and. The basic answer to that is that we have always been feeling the threat. Like, it's not surprising for us. So that's why we are not kind of so much... we are aware of it, but we are not scared in that way that it would be new to us. Because generations after generations have been very aware of that. Even sometimes maybe... well, it's hard to say when you go back in history that what was the main driver of these feelings? Is this kind of realistic analysis of the situation, or is it simply that there are generations who have been actually been in war with Soviet Union in the past, and that is kind of got, let's say, in mother's milk to every Finn in a way, like which is which? I can't say, but still there has been kind of a lot of these memories going on. And well, maybe one example is that when decades ago, when world was totally different time, different world, I was working in Russia as a correspondent, and I invited some of my friends to visit me in Moscow. And some of my friends said that, okay, I will come, and nice, we'll see the culture and do things together. And then her husband said, kind of jokingly, that okay, I will come to Russia only with a gun in my head, my hand, sorry. And I kind of laughed a little to this answer. But later on, when my friend came, the husband didn't come, and then only I understood that it is not a joke, that he will never step his foot on Russian soil. And that was, well, that was kind of 15 or 20 years ago. That's a long time ago, but still kind of I come back to that moment when I think about what's the kind of the feeling, the mixed feeling in Finland. And of course, we have to also remember that we have a kind of Russian minority in Finland, people who speak Russian. And we have had many good decades trade-wise, for instance. So that's also kind of coexisting fact in the same time. And as earlier when I talked about that with you, I also mentioned that it's hard to forget that many countries in Europe have had these trade relations, for instance, energy-wise with Russia, and it's still ongoing to some level. So it's hard to say that there would be a country in Europe that is totally unguilty to maybe miscalculating Russia.
Mirja, thank you. So there you go, 4 partners, 4 different perspectives of a threat from Russia, a threat to democracy, for some a new threat, for some an old threat. But I think most people agree this is a threat that wherever you live in Europe, you're having to adjust to. Do you want to, have you got time for questions?
Yeah. Anyone got a question?
Very simple one. The much covered handshake in Alaska of Trump and Putin, whenever it was now, a couple of months ago. What was, just very briefly, each of your reaction to that from your respective countries?
Well, I can start as a most neutral in this situation. Well, that meeting was in pro-government media in Serbia presented as a huge breakdown for the relationship with Moscow and the United States. And immediately the government and the Vucic was like, oh, this is good. And now I'm going to be good with both Russia and the United States, because this meeting allows me to be good with them, and I don't care about European Union. Of course, it won't, finish like that, because in the meantime, the United States actually imposed a sanction to NIS, which is a Russian-owned company of the oil and gas in Serbia, and it caused new problems. And he cannot now fight with the United States because of the sanction, and also he cannot fight with Russia because they don't allow him to change the ownership of the company, which is actually the cause of the sanctions. So it was pretty nice news for the government in Serbia, that meeting, and it doesn't end good at the end so far.
It's hard to shock Ukrainians, so we were not shocked. We broadcasted that meeting to our country, and Ukrainians has a very good proverb. In English, it will be we should do ours, whatever happens, and we continue to defense front line and our country.
Well, in our case, it depends whom you are talking to. If you are talking to optimists, some optimists believe that some deal could be agreed and some ceasefire could be announced. And pessimists were afraid of some deal will be agreed on expense of Ukraine and maybe on other countries. So nothing of those luckily happened. And now time for realists just to proceed with the defending of Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah, at least I must say that I really didn't believe for a second that something positive could come out from there. It was so obvious, and in a way, it was good to see Trump's disappointed face after that, because that meant that they at least didn't seem to have some sort of kind of toxic deal with each other. So, yeah.
Tim?
Hi, Tim from Sky News. Artem, we've seen what Trump has possibly achieved in Gaza, and there is this thing around Trump that you can get a dynamic situation going. It's still not impossible that could happen with Ukraine. Would the Ukrainian people agree, and you talk about Ukrainian land, do you think the Ukrainian people would agree to cede the current lines to Russia if that meant an immediate end to the war? Or do you think that Ukrainian public opinion would prefer to try and push back and win the war?
Ukrainian people need ceasefire very much, because 3 years of full-scale invasion is very much and very complicated. But Ukrainian people would not agree to stay on the existing front line, but as you told, push, because we know, Baltic countries, Finland, Poland, and we have good memory. We were in Soviet Union. Finland was in war with Soviet Union. Baltic countries were captured after World War II. That's why we have memories, and we realized what would be next if we freeze the war on that front line. It would be preparation for new war, and we would like to leave this country in peace for our children, but not to give them this legacy with war.
Thanks very much. That's all we've got time for. Thanks for the excellent panel and for your questions, and they'll be around for more, I'm sure, later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.